Okay, today I'm going to be discussing the causes and occurrences of the Russian Revolution. The Russian Revolution is the event that established communism in what was then Imperial Russia and established the Soviet Union. So in order to understand why the Russian Revolution was able to occur when it did, we must first understand the background. So in 1914, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia declared war against Germany, and this started World War I. And while World War I was initially very popular among the Russian people, it soon became increasingly unpopular as it became clear that Russia wasn't winning the war, and when they did win battles, they would suffer heavy losses. Meanwhile, economically, Russia wasn't doing very well either, so the small folk grew increasingly discontent as conditions worsened. Finally, in 1917, the February Revolution occurred. Now, what happened was a bunch of rioters and workers decided to march on the Winter Palace, and they had great enough numbers, and Nicholas II didn't have enough military support to repel them, and therefore he was forced to abdicate his throne. And after this, the Russian people decided to establish a new democratic government with the moderate socialist Alexander Kerensky at its head. However, the provisional government decided to continue the unpopular decision Nicholas II had made and continue the war effort. Now, meanwhile, Russia's socialists and other parties also had their own fair share of radicals. There was Vladimir Lenin and his Bolshevik party, who were in opposition to Kerensky and his ideals. So what Germany, then Russia's enemy in World War I, decided to do in order to be able to win World War I was they decided to send back Lenin and the other radicals back into Russia because they were anti-war. So they decided that if they sent back anti-war socialists to stir up trouble, then Russia's war effort would become increasingly more weakened. So that's what they did. And then in 1917 July, the Bolsheviks and Lenin, who were back in Russia, started a huge riot with workers, and the workers rose up against the provisional government, protesting its continuance of World War I. And so what happened was Alexander Kerensky and his government put a crackdown against the Bolsheviks. They arrested a huge number of Bolshevik officials and party members, and they put an end to the riots. And Lenin was forced to flee into exile. And then, in 1917 of September, it became clear that the provisional government wasn't very stable, and its legitimacy was called into question. The commander-in-chief of Russia's army, Kornilov, threatened to march on Petrograd, which was then the capital. And then, of course, Kerensky did not have enough military support to repel him, so he decided that the best way to do things would be to arm the Bolshevik prisoners with ammunition and weapons. Well, what happened was Kornilov lost support before he managed to even reach the capital, so he never actually reached Petrograd, and the Bolshevik prisoners were armed and released from prison. And this event served to undermine Kerensky's government further and rearm the Bolsheviks and put them back into the public at large. Finally, in 1917, October, the Bolsheviks decided that now was the time to make their move, and they sparked what was later be called the October Revolution, wherein they marched on the Winter Palace in what was probably one of the most bloodless regime changes in recent modern history. And they arrested the government officials of the provisional government, seized key government facilities, and declared a new republic, the United Soviet Socialist Republics. And this was the occurrence of the October Revolution and the ending of the Russian Revolution. It established the Soviet Union and would influence modern history for years to come.